a little bit past 6:30, so we'll get started here. 6:30 was the announced time for this informational meeting. First, I want to welcome everybody that's here. Welcome those that will view this later on Channel 55. The purpose this evening is for a public information meeting for staff to provide information on the automated curbside recycling program. That's our plan for this evening, and to take questions after the presentation. This reminder I was going to offer, I don't know how many council members we may have here tonight. We only have one presently. I'll go ahead and say this reminder, just in case we have any more come in, at least the public will have this reminder. If we have a quorum present, it's a reminder to the council members and also for the public, if a quorum of members are present, they cannot enter into or participate in any discussion of city business due to the Kansas Open Meetings Law. And that this was not a noticed public meeting. It is a public information meeting, but not noticed under the COMA. So just a reminder there. A short bit of history here before Director Jones goes into the presentation. The automated curbside recycling has been talked about a number of years. It was first discussed in 2012. It was actually included in 2012 on the 5-year capital improvement plan with the proposed implementation in 2014. The initial proposal then was implementation over a 2-year period. The biggest drawback, of course, is the startup cost to implement the program. That is what has delayed serious consideration until this point. But now we're here with consideration to seriously implement the program. It was the opinion of staff in 2012 and continues to be the opinion that the automated recycling is the best option for the city for the long-term future. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Director Jones. Jeremy Jones, Public Works Director. Sanitation is a department within Public Works. I didn't say anything yet.
Thank you, and forgive me, I don't really like using microphones, so I'll do the best I can here. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I think Shane pretty well covered why we're here, so I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. It's fairly short. There's about 16 slides. I'll try to get through them really quick. I'll start with the history of our sanitation, or basically what we do right now. For those that may not know, the full intent of this is to get information out there to the public and then the opportunity to ask questions. This is one of those things that it's not just trying to educate the public, but it's for us to be educated also. There may be some thoughts out there that possibly we haven't thought about. As we go through, I definitely want everybody to have the opportunity to ask questions. As I go through the slides, if you have questions on that slide or something I'm talking about, it'd be a good time to go ahead and ask at that point. And then as we get to the end, I've got a couple of slides there with some things that we can cover if we hadn't covered them already. And obviously, if you have any other questions, we can do those at that time. Can everybody see that okay? Currently, we have 7 full-time collection staff. They have 3 20-yard rear load collection trucks. We have 3,000 residential accounts. Of those 3,000, 48 are on a reduced rate, which with the rate increase last meeting, that will be $10 a month. Our regular residential rate will be $15 a month, so there's a $5 discount on that. Again, of the 3,000 accounts, 1,100 of those are currently served street side. If you think of everything west of Eisenhower School, there's not any alleys out there. Those are all curbside. All the newer additions, they don't build with alleys anymore. So the biggest part of those are in full additions, and then we have a handful, quite a few actually just strung out even in the older parts of town where you might have an alley, but you have 2 houses from the corner to the alley, so one of them gets a curbside collection. Commercial accounts, we have 302. Of those, 100 and, am I on the wrong way?
No, I'm just trying to work.
199 of those have dumpsters, and then 103 are smaller containers. In 2016, City of Wellington generated 4,436 tons of trash. And that goes out to our landfill just south of town. From there, it gets shipped over to Harper County Plum Thicket landfill that's owned by Waste Connections. We have a 10-year contract with them, and I think we're getting ready to start about our 4th year on that contract. So we have disposal locked up for the next 6 years at least. As we get close to that, we'll be, I'm sure, discussing with Waste Connections a new contract at that time. Residential collection occurs on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Each of those days we have 3 respective routes for a total of 9 routes. We have the town broke into 9 different routes. Most of those we have kind of what you call a small, big, and large route. That's small route is just that, it's smaller than the other 2. They take, let's see, we're on an 8-hour shift. It might take about 5 hours to do that route. Medium route would be 6 hours. Big route's a little bit larger, but it has the extra person. Of those 7, 1 truck has a driver and 2 collectors. The other 2 trucks have a driver and 1 collector. So we put extra man, extra staff on the big route. Commercial collection is 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Saturday's a little bit smaller route. Historically always has been, but that's also the day that we run the recycle center. The recycle center right there, open Wednesdays for 3 hours, Saturdays for 3 hours, so we have a total of 6 hours each week. In 2016, we collected 452,000 pounds or 226 tons of material, which is like 4.6% of our waste stream. That's all we're recycling, it's about 4.5%. In the last 5 years, we've seen very little increase in that material. Recycle Center opened in 2006, I believe. Pretty steady climb on material volume each year, but we've kind of plateaued. A lot of people, it's difficult for them to get down there on a regular basis. So if it's not easy, they don't recycle. Every study that I am aware of across the nation shows that if you're going to recycle, you've got to make it the most convenient for the customer to get the best volume out of there. And I think that's what we've seen. We've plateaued where we're at. We rent a 40-yard compactor from Waste Connections. That is $250 per month, and then $200 each time they come down to empty that. And Nathan, do you remember, are we doing about once a month on that?
Yeah, once a month.
Okay. And then we also, as part of the recycling, we have 20 businesses on a commercial route for recycling that we pick up Friday. We use one of our trash trucks, we clean it out Thursday. Friday morning we go collect that route, and then whatever room we have on it, we take it to the recycle center Saturday, finish filling it up. That ends up going to Wichita to their transfer station up there. They have a transfer station that takes both trash and recycling. So we're using 2 different methods of collecting the recyclables. So there is some cost to it. It's not a lot, but it does add up a little bit. For all the material that we send through there, we do get a rebate from Waste Connections. That rebate is currently $21 per ton. At its highest point this year alone, it was in April, and that was $54 a ton. That price is based on market. We get a mixed paper price out of the Chicago market. So it fluctuates quite frequently. As you can see, 54 to 21, that's a pretty good spread. Markets are down right now. China's been doing some things as far as regulating the amount of trash that they're going to allow in. That's where a lot of the stuff from the United States goes, exported to China. So they're trying to work through that. So the sanitation budget, we have a sanitation fund, and we have two different departments within the same fund, a sanitation collection and transfer station. They operate pretty much independently, but they're all within the same overall pool of money. So for the 2018 budget, which we're getting ready to start here in a couple of weeks, for the collection department, our expenditures are $837,125. Of that, almost $410,000 is just personnel and hourly wages and benefits. So almost half of our expenditures are salaries. And then we budget revenues of $752,000. And that's we hit that number pretty close when we do budget because we know how many accounts we have. It's pretty easy to get to that number, so we're pretty confident on that. On the other end of it, we have the transfer station, expenditures of $607,533, revenues of $639,102. So we show a little bit of a profit there. But if we go back up to the sanitation collection, we budget for a loss. And I don't think we've budgeted for a profit in that department since I took over 10 years ago. What typically happens though is we normally do not hit our expenditures. We budget money in certain places in case things happen. If those things don't happen, then we don't have to spend the money, like breakdowns and different things like that. But a lot of those costs are fixed costs also. We know what our personnel costs are going to be. We know that we're going to have fuel costs. We know that we're going to have some breakdowns. We just don't know how much. We go through a lot of tires. Got to replace those. And then we have disposal fees. Whatever we collect, we actually charge to that department from the transfer station to show that as a revenue for the transfer station. Same thing goes for the transfer station. They have fixed costs that don't fluctuate a whole lot.
Maybe you're right under the speaker.
You try speaking loud enough, Mike.
I can. I don't know how well that's going to
You're fine.
pick up
Just
for
hold
you.
it closer, Jeremy.
The overall fund, 2017, October 2017 clerk's report, the sanitation fund, which is basically our cash or our cash account, $218,690, and then our equipment reserve is $88,279. So we're right about $300,000 in our account. 12, 15 years ago, I think there was about 900,000 in there. But we bought a landfill and we had to put a new C&D cell in there. That went through about $600,000 if I remember right. So took a big hit then. But that's where we currently are. Any questions thus far? A little chart with our residential rates. Go back to 1994. They were at $10, and I think that was an increase from maybe 8 or 9. Those rates stayed at $10 until 2006. There was a $2 increase in 2007, and then we did there was another increase in 2008. Actually, 2009 and 2011, I believe, were the rate increases. That's where we got up to $14.25. And just last meeting, we raised it 75 cents. So for 2018, we're going to be $15 on residential rates. This chart shows our revenues for the fund, with the green being total of both departments put together. The middle line is for the collection department, and that's in orange, and then the yellow is transfer station. I started that one in 2006 because that's when we acquired the landfill. Again, this is revenues. So for the transfer station, we basically start at 0 and we immediately go up. We're pretty steady. For some reason, between 9 and 10, we saw a decrease in there. And then it's pretty steady again, and then we've had some uptick on that. Some of that, actually the increase in revenue at the landfill has nothing to do with the rates that we're charging there. It's even if we go back and look at when we raised rates here and here, we don't see a big uptick in our revenues. Our increased revenues are because we're getting a lot of business out of Sedgwick County from private haulers. They bring in 3 times what the city of Wellington does into that facility. So that's good business for the community. We go to the collection department, and again, starting in 2006, we see our costs go up a little bit, and then we run pretty steady. I'm sorry, revenues. See that go up in line with the rate increases, but then it holds pretty steady since our last rate increase. And then you see what the overall line is on top there. So about the main part of the increase in our total revenues is for the most part come from either rate increases or the increased traffic at the landfill. Same thing for expenditures, total on the top, collection in the middle, transfer station on the bottom. On the far right side over there, we have the cost of purchasing the landfill. And then the peak in the middle is the C&D cell that we had to put in. I think that was about $200,000 in itself. Otherwise, our expenditures we try to keep pretty low. We try to control our costs. You actually notice that at the transfer station, we were able to control and lower our expenditures for a number of years. Starting in 2014, when that goes up, again, that goes back to the increased traffic from the other haulers. Our disposal costs go up, but our revenues go up considerably more than what our expenditures do in there, so we are making money on that. Area collection rates, this is included again in the proposal that was given to the council several weeks ago. Called around to area cities. You see that the community on the left-hand side, how they're collected, either it's a municipal service or private company, what their monthly residential rate is, and then what type of service they have. The intent in that is to just try to get an idea within this area, the types of services that are out there and what they're paying. Of course, ours goes up from $14.25 to $15 on there, but we're still right in the mix there, a little bit on the bottom side. So the cost of automation. It is an expensive endeavor for us. When we started talking about this, I made the assumption that we were going to have 2 side load trucks. We've found a split body collection truck. It's a little more expensive than a regular side load truck, but the overall cost, 1 to 2, is quite a bit cheaper. $300,000 for 1 truck versus about $500,000 for 2 trucks. So it's also going to save us 1 driver, so we can reduce our staffing there. 6,200 carts, I'm estimating about $45 each. We would bid those out to several companies and see what the best deal is. That adds up to a pretty hefty amount, $279,000. The plan is that we, the city, part of the service, would provide the cans to the customers. There would be 1 trash can and 1 recycling can. One of the reasons for that is we need to make sure that we have cans that will withstand that automated service. A lot of the cans that most of us have now, they will either get torn up because by getting grabbed like that, or we like those boxy poly carts. I've got 2 of them, love them, a lot of people have them, we've got hundreds of them in town, won't work with the automated system. Not on the side load system. So we're gonna provide those. The other thing is with the split body truck, we need to identify which is trash and which is recycling. Currently I'm looking at whatever can color, both cans are gonna be the same color, they just simply have a different color lid. This is gonna cut a little bit of our costs on extra inventory. We need to have some sitting, so if they get lost or they get broken, that we can immediately replace those. If they're all the same color a can, we don't have to have as many in stock. I believe Nathan and I went up to the city of El Dorado here a couple of months ago. I think they use a Toter brand, if I remember right. They got a 10-year warranty with those. He said and that was 3 or 4 years ago. He's had no cost in cans since then. If a wheel breaks, lid falls off, he calls the company, they send it to him at no cost. But we'll be looking at those types of things. Excuse me. Now the biggest portion of this is a new trash transfer building, MSW, Municipal Solid Waste, $875,000 estimate. This serves 2 purposes. To go to an automated system where we're picking up trash and recycling, whether we do it with 1 truck or 2 trucks, we've got to have a way to move the recycling out at a much higher volume than what we're currently doing. About the only way to do that is to do it like we're doing the trash. Dump it on the floor, put it into a semi, and have it hauled to the sorting facility. The second and possibly even more importantly is the current floor that we have right now is running at capacity. It's a 50 by 50 floor. It has a 4-foot wall on it that the trash gets pushed up against. We lift it over that truck, or over that wall into the truck. It's pretty slow moving. And then I'll go back to, in 2014, we had a hauler come out of Sedgwick County, and they're bringing in, not double, but they're probably 50% again, what the city of Wellington's generating. They're bringing out of Sedgwick County down here. We had another one come in that's probably bringing about half of our volume, maybe a little more than that. And then about a month ago, we had a 3rd hauler come down. And that's not our only haulers. We've got some others that do the rural Sumner County. But they're bringing in real volume out of Sedgwick County. We just had another one start up about a month ago. And the afternoons, we're having a line out there waiting. We need to either decide if we can take their business or not. They're not going to continue to come and wait in line. Our regulations state that we cannot dump trash on the ground. It's got to be within the building. That building has to be cleared out every day. At the end of the day, we're not supposed to have trash on it. But the current building that we have is not suited for the volume that we're getting. So within this proposal, we're looking at either an 80 by 80 or a 90 by 90 floor that would be a flush with the top of the semi. So there'd be no more lifting. We simply push it off the end right into the trailer. That's going to speed up our loading considerably. It's going to allow us growth for more haulers coming from other areas. And we do know that there is another service that's going to be starting up that there's interest of coming down here. We can't serve them right now. If they called us tomorrow, we'd probably have to tell them, sorry. And when we do that, we're pushing profit away from the community. A new hauler comes in, that could mean anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000, not revenue, but total profit. That money goes back into the same fund that we're paying into with our city bills, our trash rate. Same money that funds this entire service. Sanitation does not get any tax dollars. Doesn't get mill levy, it doesn't get sales tax. It is all based on the rates in the city bills and the tipping fees out at the landfill. So if we can modify, well, we looked at modifying the current building, and there's just not enough room to add on. We can add on about 20 feet. That's not money well spent, honestly. It doesn't get us very much for what that's gonna cost. We can use the building that we have right now for the recycling material, build a new MSW building, and then have growth for the future to help pay for that bottom $1.6 million. Yes, Tammy?
So if, that takes place, in theory, where you have the companies that come in, is that going to be that savings then? Will that be passed on to the citizens of Wellington?
Absolutely. That's honestly how we have sustained the 14.25 rate for the last 3 years. I mean, that has helped tremendously. Now, remember that we already have a certain amount of that business. Anything we get additional, sure, that goes into what we charge locally. What I'd really love to do is say, to do this, it's gonna be $3 a month. And if we get another hauler in, then I can pull back $1.50. I mean, that's how important that is.
In theory,
That is what we hope happens, yes. Kenny?
On your 80 by 80 building for $875,000, that comes up almost $140 a foot.
Yes.
That's pretty high for a building that's just a tin building with a concrete floor, no power, no heating. Well, that's pretty high.
There is, there's pretty substantial foundation. His question was, if couldn't hear at home there, $875,000 for a 90 by 90 build. That's just the floor. That doesn't take into account the bay for the semi. It's an extra tall, free-span, steel red iron building. The floor is not just any concrete. It's a pretty substantial floor. And we have got that estimate from an engineering firm who's aware of what we want to do here. We'll obviously bid it out. And, hopefully come in, if we hit the right time, maybe we can come in under budget on that. But that's a lot of money. I wish I could tell you what the current building cost when it was built, but I really have no idea. Plus that was 18 years ago. So not sure if that'd be relative anymore or not. And then running 2 buildings out there, we'd have to have another piece of equipment. It'd be about $120,000. And then the automated trucks, our rear load trucks, the height is about 11 feet 6 inches. All the automated trucks that I've seen are at least 12 to 12 and a half, and maybe even a little more than that. It depends on what chassis you put them on. We do not have any 14-foot doors. All of our doors are 12-foot. We cannot get a 12.6 truck into it. So this is pretty much where the armory came in. Since that was brought up, I think there's been enough concern with that idea that I think we just utilize the land that we have out there right now. We still have the 3 rear load trucks that would fit in the building that we have. We come and build next to it to protect that new truck, and that doesn't cause us any issues. Yes?
In the event that the one on a collection truck that we have there, if it breaks down, will the company from which we bought it from, will they give us a quick replacement?
Probably not. I mean, there's going to be repairs on them. I mean, we don't get that on the trucks we have now. Trash trucks are not that plentiful around there that people have them sitting around. We just have to keep up with the service as best we can. So what our plan is, we still have the 3 rear load trucks. I would recommend that instead of trading those in, they might be worth about $20,000 each. I would keep those trucks. If our automated truck broke down, then we still have 3 trucks, and we would have 4 full-time staff. I can pull a couple of staff from other departments, and we can still keep up with our service. It may not keep up within an 8-hour day, but we should be pretty close. And then as we reroute, because it's automated and everything's going out front, we're gonna have to totally redesign our routes. Kind of like to break it into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, leave Friday, to where if we do have a breakdown and we get behind it, we can catch up on Friday and get back on track on Monday. And I won't lie to anybody. Everybody that I've talked to about automated trucks say they break down. There's a lot of moving parts on that arm. They do break down. So obviously, we're not going to buy another $300,000 truck as a backup. That doesn't make any sense. We have 3 trucks. I think that's a reasonable backup plan. It's economical to utilize what we have, and I think that'll work out. Now, as we go in the future, 10 years down the road, and we're replacing a side loader truck, maybe we look at keeping one of them. But I mean, that's a long ways down the road. A lot of things could happen between now and then. I have, let's go on this side.
So, is this an all or nothing deal? I mean, if you don't do the automated truck, is the transfer station building still gonna happen, or?
Well, the current, you might chip in on that one, Shane. I think that would ultimately be up to the city council. If this gets voted down as a whole, I will be immediately coming back asking how can we do the MSW building? Because even if we don't do the automation, I think the revenue that we bring in and the potential for additional revenue is huge to the service. Our rate just went to $38 a ton, and I know that Sedgwick County and other places, they're paying $60. I think one of them just announced a $4 increase. I think it was gonna be $66 a ton. We're paying $38. It's worth it for these haulers to come down here, even with the fuel costs and the time. They're still saving a lot of money on their services. So it's a benefit to them and their customers up there. It's a benefit to us, and ultimately the trash is probably going to the same landfill. A lot of it's all going to Harper County. It's just a different route that it's getting there, and a few more people getting benefit out of it. So that would be my plan. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing. But by doing this, that facility helps pay for the automated service. So let's just say it's $1 million by the time you build a building and you get the piece of equipment. $1 million out of the 1.7, and $240,000 on the 10-year bond based on $2 million. If we're generating an additional, let's say $100,000 out at the landfill, that's going towards that $240,000. That means that's less that we locally have to cover by a rate increase. Tammy?
I have 2 questions. One, what is the life expectancy of one of the collection trucks? And then you said that they break down, and eventually you're going to have to replace. Well, the cost to replace at that point in time, say if it's a 10-year life expectancy, is going to be more than $300,000. So then, if you've already got that revenue that's being generated from the business that's coming in, is that some money then that can be used to offset that cost of a purchase of a new truck when it's needed?
Okay, so the life expectancy of the truck, I'm looking at 6 to 10 years at least. The trucks that we have now, that's what we look at. We used to be on a 6-year rotation. We've pushed those out to 10 years. Unfortunately, we are seeing more breakdowns. We're seeing breakdowns of things that we never had before because we were running them out of our system before we got to those. So even under the system now, we have 3 trucks that we're rotating out, let's just say on a 10-year rotation. We get an automated truck in, it's gonna take a little trial and error, and we'll see what we can get out of it, what types of breakdowns we're having. But we still do repairs. You know, even some of the stuff that's wearing out and breaking down, we can repair. A $300,000 truck is more than a $150,000 truck like we have now. But ultimately we're replacing less trucks. The 3 that we have now, if we don't make a move, we need to replace 2 of them. So basically there's $300,000. That we really don't have. Because that equipment reserve buys equipment for the landfill too. And we had to buy a bulldozer. And I can tell you that the backhoe that we have out there right now won't make it through this 10-year bond. So that's gonna be an added expense. That's gonna be an expense whether we go automated or not. Actually, if we go automated, I think that backhoe probably extends its life out a little bit because we leave it on the recycle building, dealing less weight, a lot less volume on a daily basis. But that was $80,000. I wouldn't buy an $80,000 backhoe out at the landfill again. It's just, that is a rough environment on them. There's a lot of things that we already have as far as replacement costs. It's not gonna be any different with this. Actually, I think we extend the life of what we already have. We go automated. I wouldn't intend on replacing the rear load trucks that we have now. I wanna keep those 3. Require that each one of them be used on a commercial route at least once each week to keep it moving. And there's no reason that we can't use it until it's just beyond a good investment to repair. So at a very limited use, if we get another 10 years out of 2 of those trucks, we just extend our replacement schedule on those. Kenny, let me go over here. You had a question, sir?
Yeah, can you go over this general obligation bond? How is that going to affect us? I understand that we will be pretty well maxing out our credit limit for the city.
I'm gonna let Shane handle that one, because if I remember right, this general obligation bond does not count against our total indebtedness. Is that correct?
Correct, because this CO bond will be paid by the sanitation fee, by the sanitation fund. It's not being paid by general fund dollars, so it does not account against our debt limit.
But we're still going in debt.
Pardon?
We're still being in debt, that $2 million.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, yes, there's no denying that, but in answer to your question, it doesn't count against our debt limit because it's the sanitation fund that's being paid by the revenue for the sanitation fees.
And one question I've heard is, why go in debt to do something like this? Why don't you just save the money and buy it outright? Well, because I need $1.6 million, and it's going to take a rate increase to generate the excess funds to put away into their equipment reserve, and it's going to take 10 years. It's going to be the same thing as doing this and paying off the debt. I'm going to have to raise $240,000 each year for 10 years. Well, not really, because that's got additional fees because of the bond issuance. Let's say that I'd have to gain $167,000 a year for 10 years. The only way to do that is to raise rates. If we raise rates and we're just putting it back in savings, you're not getting anything for that rate increase. So we could issue bonds. It costs a little more because there is an interest on it, but the council asked to go with the 10 years consensus of the council was a 10-year bond to limit the amount of interest that's gonna be paid on that. We could've went 15, we could've went 20, but there was a significant, increase in the interest amount when you pull it out that far. So, that's kind of the way I see it. Is the only way to do this is to go in debt. But that doesn't affect sales tax, doesn't affect the mill levy. It's all by the fees that we pay on the rate. So if we're paying $15 now and we gotta go to 18 to pay, it's $3, it'd be about $3 a month. Yes.
So if you raise the rate to $18 a month, and you start bringing in 100,000 more in to go towards that 240, you're gonna drop our rates down?
Well, I've already taken a little bit of that into consideration because I was more at about $4 before. So I'm pulling back a little bit, and please don't hold me to that because that one hauler just started a month ago, so we're still getting information on how much they're gonna bring in. We're gonna look at it annually. If we keep seeing increased volume at the landfill, we can pull back at any time on our local residential rates. That's not something that we have to wait necessarily for a budget period or anything like that. Now, I may be speaking out of turn. Shane may be saying, now wait a minute, we gotta still think about budget, but we're not necessarily tied into not being able to play with our rates when we see that something else is covering that. Well, we do need to put some money back into our savings and to the equipment reserve, but it doesn't have to be all of it. If we start seeing a lot more profit coming in, then we can pull back for savings to the customer. I mean, that is the intent of why we're doing this, is to keep affordable rates. Because if we don't do this, even though we just raise rates, there's a likelihood that as we go through budget period, which will be starting next month for 2019, we may see that we have to do another small increase. I mean, nothing is getting cheaper for our operation. Trucks, fuel has actually been very kind to us, but tires and the stuff, the parts that we're using, everything keeps getting more expensive. And then our benefits get more expensive. You know, we have to give some type of wage increases to our staff to try to keep them on. So, you know, there's always going to be needs for increases. What I'm trying to do is find a more economical way that we can have long-term savings, long-term ability to keep our rates affordable. Yes.
So, in the very beginning, you said that there were a total currently of 7 employees that we
Yes.
have in the department. And so, by going through the automation, you're going to be lowering those down to 3?
4. We would be reducing 3 positions.
And what happens to those 3 employees?
They would be, we just simply wouldn't fill positions as they left. Sanitation is one of our highest turnover departments. It always has been. We went through 13 positions in the last 5 years, if I remember right. We went through 9 in 2015. They go to another employer for more money. They transfer to another department within the city. Sometimes things don't always work out, and we mutually or not mutually no longer have a working relationship here. But those things happen. And what I'm seeing is it's not throughout the 7 positions. It's typically about 2 or 3 of them that constantly rolling over. So we're spending money advertising, interviewing, doing drug screens and all the pre-employment stuff. And we just keep going through people in the same slots. Well, this system, we kind of get rid of those slots that we're turning over. We keep the employees that have been there for a few years. We can provide them a position that would give them, extend their career with us. This is gonna be a little more skilled in driving the truck and working the arm. It's gonna be a lot less labor intensive. Some of our staff members have been in this business for a lot of years, and I think something like this, they could maybe get 5 or 10 more years. You know, so I think it's a benefit to them also. It's a little bit more skilled. I think we can find a way to do a little bit more on the wage for them. Currently, we're hiring in for just a collector position at like poverty level. I mean, that's what we're paying. Excuse me. People aren't gonna stick around for poverty level wage. Even when they get their CDL, we're barely getting them over poverty. They're going up to like $11.69 an hour with the CDL. 3 years ago, Waste Connections was hiring a CDL driver at $15 an hour. We can't compete with that. If we did that, you know, we're talking another increase on our rates to pay at that level. We have 4 positions. You give them $1 an hour raise, it costs you about $9,000 a year. Not big, doesn't hurt us real bad, but that definitely helps them. Insurance, you know, insurance is really adding up. You're talking tens of thousands of dollars a year for 1 employee. You get 3 of those out. I mean, we're talking $100,000 savings just in those 3 positions. That is salary and benefit.
Excuse me.
And that $100,000 is simply taking the bottom 3 wage earners off the list. I have never supported, I have never recommended that we would ever lay anybody off. And I would not support this system if I was told that we have to walk in and tell 3 people, here's your 2-week notice. I wouldn't do it. I don't think that's the way we should do it. And I don't think we're gonna have to. I think it'll work itself out.
But you're gonna have a savings if you can decrease that turnover rate too.
Sure, absolutely.
That's huge.
Absolutely. Right behind it.
I don't know a lot about bonds, but say we have a $3 increase per month, and on our bill now that we get at the bottom, it breaks out the different bonds that we're paying for. Will there be a fee for these bonds on that bill as well?
I couldn't answer that one.
You're referring to your utility bill?
Our utility
Oh,
bill,
I think
we have
that's-
down there for the school bond, and there's like 2 or 3 of them.
That's on the property tax bill. And
Yeah, that would be the tax, that comes from a county, it would simply show, I don't believe it would show because it's paid by revenue out of the sanitation fee.
So one is gonna be paying for those bonds?
Out of the sanitation fees. It's not a tax, I mean, that tax statement shows all those different levies and everything, this is paid by the sanitation fee, so no, it wouldn't be included anywhere on your tax bill.
Okay, just be an increase from in the.
Right, in the sanitation fee collection.
yes, sir.
I've had nothing but negative feedback on the curb service. And I go to the senior center, so I'm talking to people, elderly people. And I myself look at Lincoln and Harvey Street out there. Where are they gonna put those containers on those slope streets? And I have friends that live over on 11th Street by the middle school. They tell me that those streets are jam-packed with cars during the school year. So how are you going to, can you accommodate that?
Okay. First question, I think I know where everybody's going when they talk about the elderly, but it's really not an elderly problem as far as I'm concerned.
We have a lot of elderly people in this town.
We do, but that's not a problem. Now, if there's a problem because folks have a hard time getting the container out to the street,
That's what
I know
they say.
some 20-somethings that are gonna have the same problem. There is a way, and that is planned, that we can do a special pickup service that we have people right now, we still have that problem. And we go up and we get it at their house, and we bring their container out, and we take their container back. That will continue. I keep saying we're not gonna get the level of service. I don't understand why. It's the same people running it, same people taking care of the same people. This doesn't change the level of service that we expect from this service. Harvey and Lincoln, there's about 2 blocks on both of those streets. They're gonna have to put it in the curb. I mean, I'll be honest, not everywhere is gonna be able to put it on top of the curb. City of El Dorado has 5,000 accounts. They don't pick it up if it's not in the curb. Every one of theirs they put in the street. If we don't have to do that, I don't think we need to do that. But there would be some places that we may have to do that. A Street, there is a lot of traffic on there, but there's also a lot of driveways, and you cannot block a driveway, and you can't park within 8 feet of that opening. 8 feet is more than enough to place a can and pick it up with an automated truck. There's mailboxes, there's fire hydrants, there's a lot of different things along our streets that we can utilize that space where you can't park already, and we can put a trash can once a week out there. This is done by hundreds of millions of people across this country. I think 8,000 of us can figure out how to make it work here. So along those lines, we've already got a list of every one of our accounts. We're gonna go and we're gonna drive every street in this town, look at every property, and we're gonna know what types of potential hurdles that we have to provide this service. We're gonna note if there's trees that need to be trimmed, if there's a mailbox out there, if there's a fire hydrant. We're gonna look at all of that stuff because we're gonna have to figure out where the cans are going. And we'll come up with a system that people can contact us, and if people need our assistance to get this done, they're gonna get it. But I wanna stress the ones that need it, not the ones that want it. There's a difference in my eye. Yes, question?
Oh, well, I have two or three miscellaneous questions, but what will happen to the recycling center now if we go to the automated system? Will people that are going to be receiving this special assistance of getting your container to the curb and then back, will they have to have like a special application, sort of like that we do when we want they fill out like the application of the advanced ballot, or would it be like a permanent situation for those people that can't get their trash to the curb and back?
Okay. The first question was what happens to the current recycling facility? We would pull out of it. We as a sanitation department. It's still a city facility.
Yeah.
That would be determined by others beyond me.
Yeah.
Multiple departments within the city are short on storage space. We believe that we can utilize that somehow. That's not really going to be fully up to me. But it can close because we're going to we go from 6 hours a week to 40, 40 hours a week, 6 days a week out at the landfill, that we're going to have a facility that maybe somebody from Oxford wants to come over and bring recyclables. They can go out there, and we can still take, we may even start picking up some private haulers with recyclables in there too. I'm not even counting that in. Recycling is really not a money maker, so even if we did, it's not necessarily a great benefit, but other than the environmental impact. Second question is, I don't have the detailed answer for how we get people signed up on for lack of better terms, I have it listed as special needs, special pickup accounts. We're going to have to come up with some criteria. We look at each one of them on a case by case. Not everybody's situation is the same. it's not just as easy to say if you have a handicap placard that gets you on the service. You know, that's a little bit different thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think we need to try to, without being too overbearing, I think we need to ensure that the folks that are getting it truly need it. You know, someone, you know, one person in a wheelchair may be able to do it at their property and they may want to do that, and the next person may not physically be able to do it with their situation. But is there anybody else in the household?
Or a neighbor.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great too. But I think we need to, you know, specifically within a household, make sure that everyone is incapable of doing that, and then we can definitely make sure they get taken care of.
So, Newton, Kansas is the only city in Kansas that has an ordinance making it recycling mandatory. And that was a rough sell for them because they were called communists and socialists, trying to make people recycle. So, Mike, I'm wondering, how are you gonna deal with non-compliers? And because you will need everybody to, in order for your plan to work, you're gonna have a high degree of compliance.
That will definitely help on our disposal fees, and that's kind of the kickback is, if you want your monthly rates to stay reasonable, the more you participate in this, you're helping yourself out. If you think you're gonna be spiteful and throw a bunch of trash in your recycling, we're gonna catch it. We're gonna have to have a way to deal with that, because ultimately, if we don't, then the people that we're taking it to, they're gonna cut us off. And then we gotta throw it away. So there's absolutely no savings to the system. I'm not a big fan of making this mandatory. I don't really like that,
Just
but
pointing that out for the compliance issue.
yeah, well, they're gonna be charged for it and they're gonna get a container. They might as well use it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's the only way that you can work the numbers, is charge everybody for it.
Do you not have the other container that we can, I mean, this would be for trash here, or?
Well, okay, so this is simply one option on size. This is a 95-gallon cart. Most of the next size down is gonna be about a 65 or 66. Most of them are gonna be almost as tall, they're just not gonna be quite as big around. This is honestly, I don't know, that's pretty big in my eyes. If you're actively recycling, I don't know that you need something this size. So one of the questions that we would need to work out is, can we provide both for whoever needs it? Obviously, not everybody needs this much, but we do have some larger families in town that probably need this much and possibly a little more. So we could actually go through, if we got the go-ahead from the council, before buying cans, we could do a survey and we could get a fairly close number to how many of these we would need to buy and how many of the smaller containers we could buy. That would probably be a little more accurate than Nathan and I trying to guess at it. I mean, we don't know every family in town. We don't know their exact needs.
I guess my question is, do it need two different containers, one for trash and one for recycles? Is this correct or not?
That is correct. There would be two different containers.
Thank you.
Tracy?
Yeah, hey, how's that compared to those green dumpsters that you used to sell down at the city? I mean, 95,000. I'm kind of on the opposite end. We throw out a lot of trash, and I'm not quite sure that would be enough.
The square carts?
Even with the recycle, even with those two things.
The square carts? Is that what you're talking about? The green square ones? Those are 90 gallon.
And how much is
this? This is 95.
Okay, I'm not gonna have enough. I mean, even if you put recycle, could we get two of them, or?
Sure.
You can have as many as you want.
Okay.
$2 a month.
So it would be
Now,
$2 extra for one of those? I mean, for another one.
I probably shouldn't be facetious and say things like that. But it does get to a point, a lot of people are going to a pay-as-you-throw program. You have this person who puts out their one bag, and you have this person who needs 2 of these, and they're paying the same rate. Should it be that way? It helps spread the cost out, but not necessarily fair to the person throwing one bag away. There are some inherent costs, regardless of how much you throw away, to provide each household the same service, meaning fuel, labor, everything like that to get there. And then you have the disposal costs. So my answer would be, yeah, I think we would definitely put some options out there that if you needed 2 of these, you can get 2 of these, but there probably would be a little bit of an additional cost.
Now,
Because it does cost us more to do that.
will you allow open bags? If we fill up
you
with
know,
that, that's what the
again,
guy that
I'm-
I interviewed from Old Bay, that's
I
what
don't
he was
like the
saying.
mandatory